With Game of Thrones set to wrap up all before the end of 2019, a lot of us superfans are asking ourselves, what are we going to do once the show fades to black one last time? Although I think it's a legitimate fear and we're all likely to go insane, I think it's a little selfish and maybe we should stop thinking about ourselves for a minute, only a minute, and think about what the stars of our beloved series are going to do after the finale episode airs, or even sooner, since the main cast will be done shooting the series in a matter of months. So really quick, if this is your first time finding me, make sure to hit that subscribe button and also the notification so you get updates every time I upload. I do videos on Westworld, Game of Thrones, Vikings, The Walking Dead, Peaky Blinders, ITV's Victoria, The Crown, and much more. So this is the first official episode of Predicting the Future after Thrones Edition, Maisie Williams. So I went to the Thrones Amino and set up a poll to see who you guys wanted featured first, and after about 48 hours, Maisie Williams is at number 1. So Maisie is up first, and the poll will continue going on until we are done with the series. So I will be doing the cast members from the list in accordance to demand. So those are the numbers as of the recording of this video. If you want to see one cast member over another, then go to the link in the information below and vote and have your say on who's next. So let's start with the basics. Maisie Williams is one of the youngest cast members on Game of Thrones. Williams was only 12 years old when she landed the role of Arya Stark. Maisie is now 20 years old, and during her time on Thrones, the actress's career has expanded, but she hasn't been a part of projects the size of some of her co-stars, such as Sophie Turner or Kit Harington, who, for better or worse, have starred in some major summer blockbusters during their tenure with Thrones. But Maisie has not been idle either. She has just operated on a smaller scale for the most part, or as low of a scale that a star like Maisie can possibly operate on. And she's added a good amount of projects to her resume, and they include some successes and failures just like her co-stars. But Maisie has managed to keep her failures out of the spotlight a little better than some of her co-stars. This lower profile approach goes both ways and also has kept some of her successes out of the spotlight for the most part, but I believe this is a smart move. She has grown as a performer and gained experience outside of Thrones without having every project examined under the microscope of public opinion. The projects range from everything like Netflix original iBoy and the biopic Mary Shelley. In 2018, Williams will lend her voice to the stop animation comedy Early Man, while also following in the footsteps of friend and co-star Sophie Turner to a point by joining the X-Men universe in 2018, but I believe that Maisie has had the advantage of watching both the successes and failures of her peers, and this has enabled her to be able to protect herself a little better than her co-stars by taking on lesser known but still highly anticipated projects. In the role of Wolfsbane in Fox's The New Mutants spin-off movie, unlike Sophie Turner, who has been given the huge responsibility of taking the mantle of arguably the highest profile female character of the X-Men universe, and is now charged with carrying the franchise through one of its most revered storylines with the Dark Phoenix saga. But we will cover Sophie in a separate video, and it's important to note that bigger the risk, the bigger the reward, so we're not saying Sophie's doomed by any means. I just think that everything about Maisie's decisions for her projects so far have been very smart and calculated, and her path might just be a slower burn. It has a fantastic chance of blowing up in the right way, exactly at the right time with a little luck, and is also running a much lower chance of having it all blow up in her face, which is a difficult thing to avoid for all and any members of a high-profile series, and especially a series as beloved as Thrones. I'll make a quick comparison with the cast of Star Trek that I believe isn't even completely on the same level of success as Thrones, but nonetheless, almost all of its stars are unfortunately unsuccessful in navigating the minefield of post-super series stardom. The examples you're seeing on screen are exactly why it's so crucial for our beloved stars to pick their projects carefully. Because the blessing/curse of being in a highly successful project, especially a long-running series, is by no means a new problem for stars in Hollywood. So let's talk specifics. Maisie has a lot in her favor. Not only has she had the advantage of being slightly younger, allowing her to have time to take a slightly more measured approach to roles, while most of her Game of Thrones co-stars have focused largely on their film careers outside of Westeros. Williams has had a number of recurring television roles, which has allowed her to show range and gain exposure outside of Thrones. Best example of this is her stint on Doctor Who. She's also taken several film projects, but mostly supporting roles, such as the recent Mary Shelley, which has an interesting premise exploring the author of the renowned Frankenstein novel, but it wasn't a critical nor financial success by any means. But Maisie's low-key status allowed her to avoid taking unwarranted blame for its failures, unlike her friend and co-star Sophie Turner, who unfairly took major blows for the failure of X-Men Apocalypse, which she wasn't particularly impressive in, but also was in no way responsible for the film's failure that was plagued with flaws. I really think taking the role of the mutant Wolfsbane in the New Mutants superhero film is an appropriate step up in scale of projects for Maisie, but also not too big of a step. that would come with unrealistic expectations. She's also managed to diversify her projects with voicing a character named Guna in Early Men, a Nick Park Aardman Studios stop-motion project about cavemen. She's also managed to keep up her workflow with smaller-scale art house projects and indie films that she's recently come out and stated is where she feels most at home, in an upcoming short film, Stealing Silver, in a Fault in Your Stars-esque drama called The Departures. I think it's a smart move, as long as she keeps injecting well-timed blockbusters within this. Now, let's talk about the biggest issues that stars face coming off these hugely successful series and films. They often are unable to overcome becoming typecasted. Now, I'd say that all the cast members of Thrones are actually at a lesser chance of this happening compared to most other actors who star in iconic roles in highly popular projects due to Thrones avoiding your classic fantasy tropes and showcasing truly diverse characters who are complex. But despite this fact, it's also a fact that Kit Harington might be a complex hero, but he's still playing a hero. And the same goes for a lot of the other leads. Now, this is where Maisie again has a slight advantage with her role as Arya Stark. She has had an arc of an innocent young tomboy to a bitter young lady, to literally a character that states she is no one. There is a unique benefit to playing the role of no one. It's hard to typecast as a no one. But as the series continues, she has unfortunately, just as her co-stars, become more and more one-dimensional. Now, this is not her fault or the fault of any of the stars. It's the fault of D&D. We're not here to talk about their sloppy race to the end, and we're definitely not here to discuss Dan and Dave's future in Hollywood. I can sum that up with naming the project. They used all their capital, meaning every favor they earned by giving HBO a super hit, and used to name their dream project, and wait for it, let's get a graphic up and a soundbite ready. Drum roll, please. It's Confederate. Just terrible, in my opinion. Just bad choice. Terrible choice. Bye, Dan and Dave. So it's great that Maisie has only 6 episodes left because she is essentially playing a superhero or a serial killer, or pretty much a mix of both. Point being, she probably wouldn't want to do this for any longer than necessary, since she wouldn't want to overshadow her wonderful wide-range emotional character building displayed in earlier seasons. Recently, Maisie has also came out with a series of high-profile statements and announcements of ventures, both of which I think are not only the right moves for a young woman to be making, even looking at it just from a straight political standpoint in Hollywood, but also completely sincere and speak to her actual character. I'll have these that I'm naming here and more in the source links below, but there are 2 major ones that she's made actually fairly recently that I'd like to highlight. She has just recently made a statement speaking out against the over-sexualization of female characters in the industry. I think this speaks well to her, especially being a young female in the industry. I think if she's going to be potentially looked at as a role model, that she sets a high standard, and I think she's doing that. And she's also stated that Arya Stark as a character is not an example of a positive role model, which is very true. It sounds realistically, although entertaining, she is a character who is essentially a mass murderer. The other move I think is smart, even if it's just a matter of perception, which I don't believe it is, but is her announcement that she is starting her own production company. This shows her confidence and maturity. If anybody was still mistakenly thinking of her as a little girl, this move will definitely shut that down. These moves showcase all of Maisie's actual personal strengths. She's not going to be a product of the Hollywood machine, and she's going to stay true to herself and maintain a higher level of control in her career, which in the era of the golden age of television is so vital to success because of the recent changes in Hollywood's landscape that has totally altered the blueprint for success in Hollywood, which has been followed by actors for over 50 years now, has become essentially just irrelevant to the current atmosphere. And this means the days of starting off on television and then doing summer blockbusters in the offseason in hopes of making the permanent transition to the big screen full time is over, because starring in movies these days isn't necessarily a step up from being involved in a television series or a series on a streaming network. Hollywood's landscape is changing every day, and the upcoming stars that will be successful in this landscape will be those who adapted. And she's on track to manage to achieve both success in her personal life, dare I say, by not giving up who she is in order to make it in Hollywood, and still becoming, in my opinion, a potential standout star with both integrity and awards to her name. Now, that's something you don't see a lot these days. And if I had to put a bet on only one actor out of Thrones cast to achieve high levels of success after Thrones, it's Maisie. And I think that's a pretty smart bet. So remember to go to Thrones Amino in the link below and check out the characters that are up next, and make sure to vote for your favorite to have them be the next featured. I'm Justin Thomas. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Enjoyed that video? Why don't you check out some of the videos right here? Possibly right here, but make sure to subscribe right here, and we'll see you guys soon.